second project. So with that, Gail, where is Gail? Gail, are you prepared?
I have the PowerPoint. This is Mel Wilson with the Planning Department. So Chris, if you could make me the presenter. So again, this is Mel Wilson. I'm a planner in the Department of Planning, and I'm going to go through the Planning Commission's actions regarding this petition. So a little timeline and a little history on the petition. It is a request for a conditional use permit in the C3 shopping district. The public hearing for this petition was held December 7th, 2020. Subsequently, in January, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the conditional use permit. The County Council exercised its power of review and sent the petition back to the Planning Commission on February 2nd. Later in February, the Planning Commission looked at the petition again and reiterated their approval. That report went back to the County Council, and then this was referred to this committee, which brings us to April 13th. A little history on the process. This site is zoned C3. It's been zoned C3 since 1965. This is not a request for a change in zoning. It's for a conditional use in the C3 shopping district. The site's been developed with a vacant, right now it's vacant, a Taco Bell, formerly, operational fast food restaurant with a drive-through, which is a permitted use by right in the C3. So every district has a list of permitted uses, which only require staff review of a site plan. Conditional uses require a permit granted by the Planning Commission, and then additional site plan review. So we're looking at the site at Lindbergh Boulevard and Tesson Ferry Road. It's outlined here in red. As I mentioned, it is developed with a vacant fast food restaurant. The surrounding area is developed with a mix of commercial uses. The northeastern quadrant of Tesson Ferry and Lindbergh Boulevard is located in the city of Green Park, but it's developed with a range of commercial uses on those frontages, such as bank, office, retail, restaurant, auto service, and other fast food restaurants. You can see in the surrounding area in unincorporated St. Louis County, there's a variety of zoning districts, but there is some C3 shopping district with car wash, retail, restaurants, auto service, office, and some higher intensity commercial districts as well. You can see the C6 and the C8 is the planned commercial district. Looking a little closer at the site, you can see the building out is sort of closer to the right-of-way of Tesson Ferry. Users would come in from the north of the building and then circulate out towards the southern portion along Lindbergh Boulevard. And their trash enclosure was located, or is currently located in this sort of interior corner of the site. So the petitioner, STL Quilube 1 LLC, requested a conditional use permit to allow for the development of a 1,500 square foot vehicle service facility. They're proposing a one-story building located in roughly the same location as the fast food restaurant, with 3 vehicle service bays, which would be accessed from the north of the building. The same circulation was proposed as exists in the restaurant now, with the same access points from Tesson Ferry Road and Lindbergh Boulevard. And they indicated that the hours of operation would be from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the earliest and latest, 7 days a week. So here's the site plan that was submitted to the Planning Commission. The blue shows the recommended relocation of sidewalk by MoDOT. They would like the sidewalk in the right-of-way. As I mentioned, customers would enter the service base from the north and circulate out at the southern portion of the site, and their trash enclosure is located in the interior of the site. A couple other things I want to mention are the landscape plan. The area that's shaded in green is proposed to be sodded, so it would be a pervious surface instead of an impervious surface as is now. And then you can see the larger green circles represent trees and the smaller represent shrubs. So based on all this, the Planning Commission felt that this was an appropriate use. It's a similar auto-oriented use as the former fast food restaurant with the same circulation and access. They felt it was compatible with the existing development pattern. South Lindbergh Boulevard is an auto-oriented commercialized corridor. There are some improvements proposed to the site, including the new sidewalk and the reduced impervious area, as well as additional landscaping that would generally enhance the appearance. And then what the CUP allows the county to do is recommend additional conditions of development. In this case, review of the architectural elevations and restrictions on what kind of signage. So the commission did recommend that any signage at this site would be monument in style only, as opposed to a pole sign. And that is the planning department's presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Certainly. Are there any questions from the committee members? Any questions from the committee member? Councilman Trekus.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson, a drive-through restaurant is a permitted use, yes?
Right.
So if another drive-through restaurant was interested in coming here, there'd be no need for any type of CUP or anything else because it's already zoned for that and it's already a designated permitted use, yes?
So yes, in a C3, a restaurant or with or without a drive-through is permitted by right. If they wanted to go into the same location, they'd probably just need a reoccupancy permit, but there wouldn't be any action from the commission.
And with respect to additional landscaping, there's nothing that would stop a subsequent drive-through restaurant from doing the same or even better landscaping than what's been proposed here, yes?
So if there was a site plan under review, they would have to adhere to the current regulations of the landscaping section, which would include a front buffer, but there would not be any landscaping required abutting other commercial uses. The zoning ordinance doesn't require that, but through this CUP, it would be required.
Right, but I wasn't asking about required. They'd certainly have the option to do so, correct?
Sure, they could propose additional beyond what's proposed here.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Any other questions from any other members of the council? All right, thank you very much. We move on to the petitioner, who is representing.
Today? Hi, this is Troy Carter with Beacon Engineering. So I want to talk a little bit about, I don't know how familiar you guys are with TakeFive oil change. I just want to talk a few minutes about our brand and our model. So as Melissa mentioned, cars will actually enter from the north side of the building. So the way our model works is you actually stay in your vehicle. So that model has actually been very COVID friendly during these times. So you don't have people getting in and out of the cars. You don't have them touching things. So you pull into the bay, you're going to stay in your car the whole time. They only do oil change. So it's a very low impact automotive use. We're not talking about heavy equipment. We're not talking about a big noise generator. We're not talking about body work. We're talking about just strictly oil changes. I do believe they actually sell windshield wiper blades, but again, a very low impact auto use. So that's one of the things we want to talk about is, you know, it is COVID friendly. You stay in your car, customers pull in, they get their oil change, they pull out. In general terms of development, it is a very low impact use. So the ITE estimates that we would generate about 120 trips per day. The ITE is the Institute of Traffic Engineering, but real market data suggests that a successful store would generate only 80 to 90 trips per day. If you were to look at a lot of other uses that are permitted within this district, like a fast food restaurant, that number shoots up astronomically, the amount of trips that we would generate. So we're a low traffic generator. The other item is we're a low utility demand. We only have the one wash closet. As I mentioned before, customers stay in their cars. So really the only people using the restroom or using the utilities are the employees on site, which we only have 2 to 3 of at a time. So when you look at it from an environmental perspective, we have a very low water demand. We have a very low wastewater demand. Also, you know, converting this or looking at the previous use, which was a fast food restaurant, then you're talking about the fogs, fats, oils, greases. Obviously, a good engineer is going to design for those types of systems, but you're still putting a risk of getting that into your system. The other thing we talk about is this is not your father's Jiffy Lube. This is a new brand that cares very much about their image. and wants to be good neighbors. We know that automotive uses kind of get a bad rep all over the country. So we have to do a lot of conditional use permits. And it's something that we're always willing, within reason, to work with the local municipalities, work with the local adjacent landowners to be good neighbors. And it's a brand that, like I said, I've worked with these guys for years. I've done tons of stores with them. They care a lot about their image. They care a lot about their presentation. They want customers to see this and feel comfortable and want to come in. So I'm kind of started by showing you a little bit of the site plan because I wanted to talk about the model of staying in your vehicle. I do have some elevations here. Just these are general elevations. As Melissa discussed, this is something that we would, be subject to review with the conditional use permit, and we could work on. As far as the monument sign, which she mentions, that's perfect for us because that's all we want to do anyway, is that monument sign. So going back, I'll do a quick tour because of the previous slideshow that we did. The previous slideshow that we did for the previous public hearing, we did have a public hearing on this back with the Planning Commission. We had no objection from anyone at that time. So we haven't got any kind of, objections from the local landowners who were noticed for, your city requirements, or excuse me, county requirements. So we feel really good about that. As Melissa mentioned, there is a bit of a precedent here for automotive uses, as she showed from that graphic, that there are a lot in this area. The reason I kind of wanted to revert back to this was, as Melissa talked about, we are not requesting a change in zoning. But another item I wanted to hit on was we meet all the site design or dimensional criteria of your code. We're not asking for any kind of variances or waivers or any exceptions on anything else. We can meet all of your code criteria. So that's something that we definitely wanted to point out. We're not looking for a change in zoning. We're not looking for any kind of special treatment. We meet the criteria of the conditional use permit. And as discussed, the precedent has kind of been set for that. So I think kind of looking at, here's our brand, here's our model, here's how we fit into your code. We have Planning Commission support. And as I mentioned before, we haven't received any objections. So we feel like there's, this is a slam dunk for us. We thought that going in. My clients invested a lot of time and money to get to this point. And we would love to be good neighbors. We would love to take a vacant site that's a bit of an eyesore, to be honest, improve it, decrease the amount of impervious, which relieves the amount of stormwater runoff coming from the site, bring it up to the landscaping code, get some green space, get a nice looking site, provide local jobs for individuals in this area. And we're willing to work with you guys and do what we have to do to make this one go through. I have my planner, Jarish Barbie. He's our planner on staff here. And at this time, we'll open it up to any questions you guys might have from our presentation.
Thank you, Troy. Any questions from the committee members? Councilman Trekus.
Mr. Carter, who are your clients?
My client is Matt Beckham, who is the owner of STL Quilube LLC.
What is STL Prelude LLC?
That is an LLC he has formed for the purpose of doing development projects in the state of Missouri.
See. And where is his headquarters located?
That I do not know.
Is it located in Missouri?
I'm not aware.
And you wouldn't know, in fact, that it's located in Florida, would you?
I would not be aware of that. I am located in Florida. My office is out of Tampa, Florida.
I'm going to get to that in a minute. So my point is, you're not local to St. Louis, right?
No, sir.
Neither is your client, to your knowledge.
To my knowledge.
Okay.
I would point out that the landowner is local.
That's obvious, sir. I'm talking about you and your clients now, not the landowner. Okay. With respect to, you made a statement that your type of operation, that is oil change operations, have a bad rep throughout the country. Did I write that down correctly?
No, sir. I said automotive changes, automotive uses.
Have a bad rep?
Yes, sir.
Now, was it I correct when I wrote down throughout the country?
Yes, sir.
So would it be reasonable to conclude that at least to some degree that reputation is well deserved?
I don't know that it's well deserved. I think you could make a case that, you know, if you're talking about putting an automotive heavy body repair next to a residential subdivision, next to someone's home, next to, you know, I could think of several other uses that may be something that they would consider that to be detrimental. Putting it in a commercial district next to a bunch of other automotive uses, that's what planning is. That's city planning.
So it's your opinion then that in your words, nationwide bad reputation for automotive uses is not deserved?
Correct.
Okay. Now let's see. We talked about that. And you came in here with the belief that this was a slam dunk for you, right?
Yes, sir. I think we meet all the criteria of your code.
And of course, you don't reside in the area. Your client doesn't reside in the area. And one last question. How many other oil change operations are within a mile of your location? Do you know?
I do not know.
How about a half a mile?
I do not know.
How about a quarter mile?
That are specifically just oil changes?
Yes, sir.
Are just automotive shops that actually, you know, have oil changes as an option?
Either. Well, let's just leave it to oil change operations.
3 to 4. I'd have to do a radial on the map. You know, I'm not, you know.
There are 3 or 4 other oil change operations within a quarter mile. Is that what you're telling me?
Within a mile is what I would believe.
Okay, that's all I have.
Or automotive shops that would offer oil change facilities.
Thank you.
I would like to state though that, you know, I know you're saying that I'm not local, my client's not local. The property owner who's sitting there with a vacant lot, he is local. He is a taxpayer. The businesses and jobs we would create, those would be in your county. They would pay taxes to you. There's other
and we're talking what, two or three people on site at any given time?
Well, you have to think about all the other professionals involved. You got a realtor, general contractors, subcontractors.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other members of the committee with questions?
Madam Chair.
Councilman Fitch.
Thank you. Mr. Carter, this property's been vacant for how long?
I would have to defer to the realtor. I believe he submitted a letter that details that. I know it's been vacant, I would say at least a few years.
I would say probably 10 years.
10 years.
I do represent the area very close to this area, and it's been vacant for a long, long time. Are there other projects that you're aware of that are looking at this site as well?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And I will tell you that kind of what you heard Councilman Trekus say, where I particularly live, there are 2 vacant, one Valvoline and one former Jiffy Lube stations near me, within a half a mile of me, that are vacant and have gone out of business in the last, I'll tell you, since the pandemic started. So what effect has the pandemic had on this industry that you want to bring into this particular site? And how can you assure us that if this is approved, that it's not going to end up being vacant once again, like the other sites around me?
Well, to defend that point, so kind of what I hit on earlier is that this business has kind of thrived in the current pandemic because of the model that you stay in your vehicle. So that cuts down on a lot of person-to-person contact, and they have actually seen an increase in business, and it's believed from their market studies that's the reason why, is they're cutting down on person-to-person.
Aren't they all operating that way now since the pandemic? All of these oil lube places? I
only trust one place. You know, I like I said, I'm very familiar with this brand. That's where I go to get my oil change. I don't know that, you know, I would not speak that all the oil change businesses, or especially any kind of automotive service shop that offers oil changes, they are doing drop-offs, get in the car, pull into their own bays. Honestly, when that first kind of came out, and maybe they are trying to imitate what we are already doing, but we were doing this long before the pandemic.
I can just tell you, I have experience with just one of these sites, and we have some company vehicles that we take to the site, and everything is in your car. Everybody stays in the car, and it's a Jiffy Lube. So yeah.
Now I'm not an economist, you know, so I don't want to speculate too much on assurances or anything like that. I will say that we are, you know, a subsidiary of a much larger firm, which is Driven Brands. And Driven Brands has Meineke, Mako, TakeFive Oil Change, and they've recently acquired a car wash group. They recently went public on the stock market within the last few months. So this is a brand that is definitely trending in the right direction. So in today's world, can I offer you an assurance? No, but anybody else who came in here and said, yes, I can guarantee that. I mean, there's a vacant fast food shop there. What assurances were they given? But what I'm saying is this is a brand that's definitely trending in the right direction, and it's a brand that, you know, I personally believe in.
Sure, it was a Taco Bell. I've worked in that area since 1983, and it was up and running for probably at least 20 years, which I think was a good investment for them. But any rate, so if this project is not approved and doesn't move forward, is it your plans to move a business like this somewhere else, or what's your plan?
If this is not, you know, approved and move forward, we would have to take a step back and reevaluate everything we've done here and been through here. I don't know. I mean, I work for a client. He would have to make that decision, and I'm not sure what his feelings would be given the circumstances.
Is the owner of the property on the call today?
I do not. He may be listening in. I don't think he is a panelist.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from other members that are not on the committee?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilwoman Webb.
thank you. To the representative for the person representing the company, the client you serve, do you know if they do any other kind of business or community development or projects for communities?
Not to my knowledge. My relationship with him is strictly these types of developments.
Okay. And my other question is, because that's where my concern comes, is were there any ongoing outreach with the community to see how they will respond and how would they support such endeavor?
Up beyond what's required by code, but that's, you know, we are required with these types of projects to do standard noticing, standard advertising, which I believe is handled in-house by your staff, and that's what we felt was, you know, needed. I would go for more of a community outreach, like I mentioned before. If we were, you know, abutting a residential area or somewhere where the uses around us, adjacent to us, weren't consistent with what we were trying to do, then yeah, maybe some additional outreach would be warranted. But that was not the case here.
But there's a community that surrounds that make those businesses actually thrive, correct? So those.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, it's part of the district.
Okay. I was just concerned about how proactive you were about ensuring the community around your business will be supportive before making the decision to move forward. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And any other questions? Mr. Carter, I had one, and I believe, I'm not sure if you said this, do you have any other TakeFive, no, it says to Take 6, any other TakeFive ventures in the area?
No, ma'am.
In the state of Missouri?
Yes, ma'am.
Where in Missouri?
We are looking at a piece in O'Fallon.
No, but do you have any already up and running?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very kindly. So we will now move on to the interested parties and public comments. Diane, is that you who will be doing that or reading that, or?
There are no email comments for this project, Madam Chair, and I do not know, I think Councilman Trekus would know if there are people on the call that want to speak on this matter. I'm not sure.
Councilman Trekus, okay, thank you. Councilman Trekus, any other people, interested parties?
I can see at least 3 or 4 on the call right now.
Okay, I don't have any names, so I tell you what you do. You call their names and then we'll allow them to proceed.
All right, so why don't we start with, let me see.
We have.
I see people here, but I don't see any names. Okay, oh, some names down there. Okay.
Lauer, are you there?
Joan Smith Lauer.
Mm-hmm.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I am here.
We're ready to hear from you.
I have lots of questions. Actually, my first question is, how did this company that is in Florida decided to pick on this corner of Concord Village that this gentleman called, and I resent this, an eyesore? I've lived in this community for 25 years. The corner of Tesson Ferry and Lindbergh is a prominent corner. One of our great St. Louisans, Dave Sinclair, has a very large visual presentation on the southeast side of this intersection. We have a bank on the other side. In fact, there is a CarX right across the street from the proposed Quickie Lube or whatever this is called. This is not a commercial area. This is a residential area. It is Concord Village. It is one of the oldest little villages, unincorporated, around St. Louis. People enjoy living here. We don't have the taxes of some of the other municipalities. It's very delightful. There are, within a half a mile, Councilman Trekus, yes, there are 4 other oil change places. Now, the Jiffy Lube has gone out of business. That is right around the corner. The CarX remains in business, does other things other than oil changes. The Valvoline, which is like a 1/4 of a mile down the street, is open for business, and sometimes the people, their employees, stand out on Lindbergh waving people in. So I can't believe they're doing a whole lot of business. We have superfluous oil change joints around this area. I could name some more, but I guess my time is limited. This is no way, in my community's opinion, a slam dunk, Mr. I forget your name, Carter. This is our community. We have pride in this. The man who owned, this is what we understand, the man who owned the Taco Bell wanted to own his own property, land, and that is why he moved about a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile further down Lindbergh and sandwiched his Taco Bell in between Dairy Queen and Country Buffet or whatever that buffet restaurant is. It's a very small location, but evidently he bought his own land, and that is why he left that spot on the corner of Lindbergh and 21. It is not an eyesore. It is not a slam dunk. In response to Councilman Webb's question, we've had no communication with anyone from any company. And again, my first question, and I'd like it to be answered, how did someone in Florida find this little bitty piece of land in Concord Village and decide to descend upon it? So it is important to us. This is a main thoroughfare. 21 runs right off of Interstate 255 or 270, I guess it's called there. Whenever we have need of construction workers or someone who calls and says about what is the main coordinates for your location, it's 21 in Lindbergh. Tesson Ferry, as we call it, or 21 in Lindbergh. It's a prominent corner. I want to call it the jewel in the Concord Village area. We don't need another oil change joint. The foliage and the trees that are on that property from the Taco Bell look pretty good to me. And the community, again, we have not had a say. We have a neighborhood website around that people put comments out, and that has been a topic, like what restaurant is going to go in there. We've had a restaurant. We liked the restaurant. It was the owner of the brand name who chose to move his site. Why penalize us with putting an oil change joint from Florida that the man doesn't even know where the owners live or and the man who wants to put it in there isn't even on this call? I find that kind of a slight. Anyway, I will go back to, if someone can answer me, how did, again, I have a marketing degree, who markets our unincorporated properties? And
So,
who markets them, and how did this joint in Florida find out about this tiny little piece of Concord Village?
so Joan, let's let Mr. Carter answer the question if he can. Mr. Carter?
Yes,
Thank you, Joan.
and my apologies, ma'am. I did not mean any disrespect to your community by saying that. I was just remarking on having a vacant commercial property that's not currently being actively improved or maintained. It's in general, when things are not maintained and move towards a state of disrepair. That was not a remark towards your community at large. The reason.
But it was said.
My apologies again. The reason I am involved is, we do a lot of the corporate engineering for this. Now, this is actually being done by a franchisee, and he will be the owner for these properties. He's not a part, he is a subsidiary, but not a part of the corporate environment. So being their preferred corporate engineer, that's how we get involved in a lot of these franchisee projects.
How did you select, I'm sorry, I'm not used
Go
to
ahead,
being
Joan,
able to-
because we do have some other folks that want to,
Right,
I
okay.
guess, want to ask questions or make a comment at least. Okay?
Yes, my comment is, we don't need another oil change. The
Okay.
question is, how did you select our piece of property in Concord Village?
And that's a question I don't think you answered, Mr. Carter.
Thank
So
you.
as the engineer, we do not do the market studies for selecting these sites. This was done by others, and then the site was brought to us.
Okay, and so essentially you don't have an idea of how this got to be. You're just the
I'm
real
sure
estate
there's a
person.
market study that would have, supported that this would be a good location for this type of use, probably based on other adjacent, comparable uses or uses that could, complement each other. And so I'm sure there was some market data to support that, but this site was brought to me.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you, Joan, for your comments. Councilman Trekus, is Pamela Knox one of them?
She
One of
is.
your- Okay, Pamela? Pamela, are you on? Okay, well, maybe is Kurt one of your,
Can you hear me?
oh, there you are. Yes, Pamela,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay, I'm wanting to address the car wash on Gravois. This is not the one that I want to comment on.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you. That'll be in the second portion of the meeting, so hold on, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have a Chris Struckoff on, I think, that wants to address this.
I spend much time in Concord Village and Tucson Ferry area, and it's also on near in front of Lindbergh Boulevard. And I am here to voice my concern over the rezoning of the existing Taco Bell site at Tucson Ferry and South Lindbergh. I've been there many times for food, and it's in a very nice, convenient area. And it just doesn't seem to fit for a oil lube job place. This seems an inappropriate corner spot. This proposed location has been a fast food restaurant for decades. The area has multiple oil change businesses, and recently the Jiffy Lube on Baptist Church went out of business due to the lack of need for oil change businesses. I would ask for the committee to say no to the rezoning of this property and to leave the current zoning of a restaurant with a drive-through to stay in place. I think it would be well attended. Proper planning of the community helps stabilize the community, and please help make sure this is thoughtful planning in unincorporated St. Louis County. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we get Pamela in?
I'm waiting to speak.
Okay, Pamela, go ahead.
No, I'm waiting to speak about the car
the
wash on
next one.
Gravois.
Okay,
I think we have, I'm not sure if Jennifer Riley wants to speak on this issue or not. Is she on?
She's with the Transportation Department, so I don't
Okay.
think there's any comment.
And then there's Nancy, I may mispronounce this, Luchtefeld?
Yeah, it's close enough. I'm waiting on the Gravois thing.
Okay, very good. So I don't know, I don't see any others that are waiting on
Well,
this.
Madam Chair,
Okay,
Unless
let's
I
just
might be wrong, if anyone is waiting to speak on this, please speak up.
let me just open it up and see if there's anybody else, interested parties, that wish to speak, any other kind of public comment. And we're on the, TakeFive project. Anyone else who wishes to speak on the TakeFive project? And I think, Councilman Trekus, Fitch, did I hear you? Okay, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Troy Carter again. I just kind of want to touch on that last point, just for clarification.
Sure.
We're not going for a rezoning here. This is a conditional use permit. If it remains a C3, that would be open to whatever permitted uses. That extends far beyond a restaurant. That includes nightclubs, liquor stores, other, not neighborhood friendly uses that may, would be actually not have to go through this process. That would be a totally permitted use. I'm told that we have Patrick Willett on the call who would like to speak. He is the local real estate broker and had some input.
Patrick, are you on?
Ma'am, hold on just a second. He's an attendee and I'll move him up to panelist for you. Give me just a second.
Okay, 1 second.
Madam Chair,
Yes, who's
this is
talking?
Joan.
Yes, Joan.
Responding to Mr. Carter once again, if this is a temporary use, why doesn't the council wait until we have a particular use that the community wants? We don't want to be just getting whatever comes along to be put into our pieces of land. Leave the zoning. We don't want a temporary use. Leave it where it's at. Let the community have what they need. This is a pretty tight-knit community around here.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, are you on?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Very, very, very faint.
Is that any better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. And I'd like to answer any questions that individuals have about the past history of the site and efforts to get other type of uses on this site. And I'd also like to mention, I am also a resident of the area. I've been a resident for 41 years, frequenting the Taco Bell many, many times, totally understand the trade area. And we've been engaged from the property owner, the Walls family, for the last 3 years to try to find a resolution for this property. We pride ourselves here at Pace Properties as being the leading retail firm, one of the leading retail firms in all of the St. Louis MSA, having relationships with every national retailer. We've reached out to hundreds of national, local, regional retailers about this site. And I have to tell you, we were underwhelmed with the amount of activity that we saw on the site. And our first set of retailers that we went after were fast food facilities because it made sense. It was an existing fast food. Every single one of them either said no because of the trade area or no because of the site itself and that it's bound by median bound access, which is also the reason that Taco Bell relocated from the site to move down to a full access intersection where they could get all turning movements, ingress and egress on the site. The site does not enjoy that. You cannot turn left into this site going southbound. You cannot turn out of this site and go southbound. We after a 3-year commitment, we reached out to other particular uses that were allowed by the zoning or allowed by the zoning with the conditional use permit. We selected the TakeFive Oil Change Group because of their strong operating history, great credit, and first-class operation. They currently are doing 10 other locations here in St. Louis with another 20 planned after that. They have a unit open in Florissant, a unit opening in Bridgeton, a unit out in St. Peters, a unit in Cottleville, a unit going out in Wentzville. We are working with them on another unit out in Chesterfield, Missouri. They're also enjoying success on the Illinois side of our St. Louis MSA. There's other locations planned here. It's a use, one of the residents that spoke about Dave Sinclair across the street, and also an automotive related use. The Sinclair family also bought ground behind us to add on additional auto related uses. This, in our opinion, is fitting. The Walls family has owned this site for 50 plus years. We tried our hardest to get an operating business there. We do not enjoy sitting on vacant property, paying real estate taxes year after year after year. And finally, we have a use, a stand-up use from a stand-up company. Doesn't matter where they're based out of. They're creating jobs here. They are creating sales tax here. They are creating income tax here. We owe it to them to not put them on trial. We've reached out to the community as we were asked to do so. Not one person spoke against us in any of our public hearings. We've tried to reach out to the councilman for this ward. We did not hear anything back from him at all. We've done everything that we were allowed to do, supposed to do, and we hope that people understand the retail climate that we're in today is not flourishing. We have a great, strong company that wants to operate here in St. Louis, grow business with multiple units here in St. Louis. Least we can do is listen to him. He's abiding by the code. He's not asking for a zoning change. He's not bringing a fearful, dangerous use to the property. It doesn't matter how many other oil change units are around here. It's not up to the county, and it's not up to us to dictate if this is a good business decision or not. They see that it is. And we would ask that everybody see it for what it is, not put these folks on trial, and not get wrapped into more of a political mess, and do what's right. Thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Questions, Councilman Trekus?
Mr. Willett,
Yes,
you
sir.
don't own this property, do you?
Nope, I represent the Wallace family.
Right. So you have no ownership interest in it, do you?
Absolutely none.
Right. So you haven't paid a nickel in taxes yourself, have you?
I pay a lot of income taxes and real estate taxes.
Sir, do you pay any real estate tax on this property?
No, and I don't see the.
So when
problem
you said we, you didn't mean yourself, did you?
It's a client of mine. We
Right.
speak
So
in we.
your client pays the tax. You don't pay any of it, do you?
Yes, I'm speaking on his behalf.
Now, you're also earning a commission if this project goes forward. Is that correct?
That's here nor there.
I'm sorry?
That's here or nor there. I don't think that has any standing.
Answer my question, sir. You're earning a commission if this project goes forward. Is that not correct?
Mr. Trekus, you know the answer to the question. I don't see how that holds
I
any
want to
relevance.
hear it from you, sir.
I don't find the need to answer the question.
You refuse to answer.
Correct.
Ah,
Now, lastly, sir, you said you reached out to the community. Other than the public hearing that was required, but before the zoning commission, you didn't lift a finger to hold a town hall or anything else in the way of a community reach out, did you?
No, and we were not asked by our council member to do so either.
I'm not asking that, sir. I'm asking what you did. You said you reached out to the community. In point of fact, sir, you did not send one unique mailer to anybody in the community. You did not try to hold any type of town hall or get together to inform the community other than what you were required to do before the zoning commission. Isn't that correct?
Correct. We did what we were required to do.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else with any questions? Any committee members with any, Councilman Fitch?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Willett, I happen to be very pro-business. However, there's a comment that you made that I absolutely disagree with. When you tell us, as council members who represent the people that live in this area, that we shouldn't care if there's an overabundance of oil changing places, we're the ones stuck. The community are the ones stuck with these vacant buildings when they're oversaturated. So to say that that's not a legitimate concern of the community and we shouldn't care about that, there are vacant buildings all over this county because they were oversaturated in many cases. And like I said, just in the area I live, there's a Valvoline that's now closed that's sitting there and has been vacant for a long time, and a Jiffy Lube that's closed and been sitting there vacant. So can you explain to us, I get the business perspective. From your perspective, it's your job in PACE to get rid of this property, to get it off the market, to earn your commission, move on. I understand the business part of all of this. However, one of the parts that I think you're forgetting about is the community piece of this. From what we've heard from many residents since it started is they don't want another oil changing place in their neighborhood. There may be other uses for it. It has been sitting there vacant. I do agree with you that it needs to be improved. I wonder from the Wall family, why haven't they demolished the building? Why haven't they turned it into green space? Maybe it'd be more marketable. Instead, we're there to see at a major intersection in unincorporated St. Louis County, this building standing there vacant for year after year after year. Yes, they might be paying property taxes on it, but that doesn't make it any more appealing to the eye. So mine is just a statement that I do take difference with you about how many of these we can have in the community, why it shouldn't be any concern of ours. It is.
Yeah.
So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Willett,
Can
you
I
have a
reply?
comment?
Yeah, can I reply to Mr. Fitch, please?
Sure.
Mr. Fitch, you're absolutely right in your comment there. And if I said shouldn't care, that was a poor choice of words. And what I more so meant was not care, but when it gets into the business decision making part of a retailer, we feel that's more of a retailer's responsibility to make a business decision. But should you care? Absolutely, 100%. I also agree that this is a community that I reside in. I'm a Melville high school graduate. I live in this area. My kids go to school in this area. I absolutely 100% care about the community. And sorry for the poor choice of words there. But relative to the other two oil change facilities that closed, one of them I'm aware of was a franchisee issue that got out of the business and could not find another franchisee to take it over for what he thought it was worth. With respects to the other one, I'm not privy to that information.
Maybe a dumb question, but a follow-up is, why wouldn't they move to one of those sites that's already set up to be an oil changing place?
I think in their opinion, from what we've gathered, is that it's not a location that is set up for their business, and that it would be advantageous for their business to locate. Sitting on the corner of Main and Main attracts more eyes, and they saw this as a better location, and I don't necessarily know if I can disagree with them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the committee with questions? Any members not on the committee? Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you very much. We will now have a discussion and or a recommendation or not from a member of the committee. Anyone? Councilman Trekus. You are on mute, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize. It's no secret that I oppose this use. I've heard from dozens of residents that live near this location who do not want this use in their community. I think we've heard from representatives of that group today that clearly are opposed to it. Councilman Fitch has alluded to it, and his office has heard from members of the community. And so when you look at that and you hear from the representatives we've heard from today, one from Florida who doesn't even know where the corporate headquarters of his client is, both of them trip over their own words and make less than conscious statements regarding how they feel about the community. I don't see this as any way, shape, or form a positive get for this community. And I would ask that the committee recommend that it not approve, that the council not approve this particular use. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Trekus, is that a motion?
Yes, I'll put it in the form of a motion. That'll be fine. I move that we recommend that the use be rejected to the council as a whole.
So let me ask Genevieve here. She wants to jump in.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So just what the statute asks the council to do is to either affirm, reverse, or modify the approval of the Planning Commission.
And so we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that by motion. Is that what you're saying?
Right. No, I'm saying that that's what ultimately the council will have to do. So I would recommend that the motion be to reverse the approval of the Planning Commission.
Very well. I'll restate my motion.
Is that your motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'll restate it. I move that we recommend to the council to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there a second?
Second, Fitch.
Nancy.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. So we will recommend to the council that they reverse the approval of the planning commission on PC 22-20 STL Prelude 1 LLC. Is that correct, Jen?
Yes, ma'am, if that's what
All
the
right, it has
committee
been
wants to
moved second
recommend.
and we have voted. So, all right, we will be moving on to our second project for the afternoon, the St. Louis County Planning Commission's response to council order dated February 2nd, 2021, exercising their power of review and referring this item back to the Planning Commission PC 23-20 Club Car Wash Operating LLC, reiterating its approval with regard to a pending request for a conditional use permit in C2 at the south side of Gravois Road, approximately 350 feet west of Tesson Ferry Road. We will proceed with the agenda as we did the previous one, starting with the presentation from the Planning Department.
Chris, can you
Who's
make
doing
me the
it?
presenter again?
Is that you, Melissa?
Me, Mel Wilson, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this is PC 2320 Club Car Wash Operating LLC. These petitions both went to public hearing at the same time, so the timeline is generally similar. This is a request for a conditional use permit in the C2 shopping district, so this is one rung of commercial intensity lower than the C3. Public hearing before the Planning Commission was December 7th, 2020. They recommended approval of this conditional use permit January 11th. The County Council exercised their power of review in early February. The Commission reiterated their approval in late February. The County Council referred it to the Public Improvements Committee, which brings us to today. Similar to the last petition, this is a request for a conditional use permit in the C2 shopping district. The site has been developed with a restaurant, which is permitted by right in the C2. The rear portion of the site, sort of behind the frontage of Gravois, has an office, which is a permitted use in the C2 as well. So the request is for a car wash, an automated car wash, which is a conditional use. So we're looking at the Afton area, Gravois Road, and Tesson Ferry Road, where at the intersection north of Gravois, it's Rock Hill Road, south of Gravois, it's Tesson Ferry. The site's outlined here in red, and you can see some of the surrounding uses. To the west is the Sunset Memorial Park Cemetery. There are some single-family residences in the R6 district. You can see there's a hardware store, Zone C8, as well as a grocery store, Lutheran High School South, the Grasso Plaza Retail Center, and then some other various commercial uses in the C2 shopping district to the east. So you can see on the site in the rear portion is the office building, and in the front it's currently breakfast and burgers, so it's a restaurant, sit-down restaurant. So the request is for a conditional use permit to develop a 5,600 square foot automated tunnel car wash. So it would be a single tunnel with 12 stacking spaces leading up to it from an attendee kiosk. I'll show the site plan in a moment. They are proposing 12 vacuum bays and 4 parking spaces, and at public hearing indicated there would be between 4 to 5 employees. Circulation goes south from Gravois Road along the attendee kiosk and then sort of in a counterclockwise motion. Originally, the petitioner had indicated they wanted to close the easternmost curb cut, maintaining the other 2 access points on the west side of the frontage. And they also indicated hours of operation on Monday through Saturday of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sunday 7 to 7. So you can see the preliminary site plan here. The car wash building is sort of in the same general location as the restaurant. It's a little bit bigger, or it's larger, and it is a little bit further from Gravois Road. On the west side is the attendee kiosk, which has sort of a shade canopy as well. In the center are the vacuum bays. There is a proposed retaining wall. to allow for the development of the site. A retaining wall would be required in the southern portion of the site. And then in the preliminary site plan, there is a trash enclosure proposed along the Graveway frontage. The Planning Commission did recommend a few modifications, including the modification of the entrance per MoDOT's guidelines, which there were a couple of options, but basically MoDOT wanted to be able to control the access a little bit better here at Graveway. The Commission did put in a stipulation of the conditional use permit that the freestanding signage would be monument in style as opposed to a pole sign. They also recommended that a 30-foot structure setback from Graveway Road to help maintain the visual appeal of the site and not have it, right in the front of the site. We also, the Commission recommended some additional landscaping on the interior of the site, and then the area that's shaded green was originally proposed as landscape rock. The Commission is asking that be planted with native grasses instead. Additionally, in lieu of chain link fencing or other fencing, the Commission is requiring that fencing shall be decorative wrought or wrought iron. Along with those sort of site considerations, the Planning Commission felt this was a reasonable use, that it was consistent with the surrounding development pattern. Graveway Road in this area is established as a commercial corridor and is developed with various auto-oriented uses with this sort of drive-through concept. The Commission felt the site could be developed in a way that would not be detrimental to surrounding permitted and conditional uses, including the setback for the trash enclosure, additional landscaping, and the decorative aluminum fencing. Similarly to the last site, the county, through the conditional use permit process, can add these extra stipulations and conditions of development, such as architectural review and sign stipulations, such as monument style only. There is a little bit of history on this site. In late 2019, there was a request for a change in zoning and a conditional use permit. A portion of the site had previously been zoned residential, and so it was rezoned to commercial. The council passed legislation rezoning that portion, so the whole site of 1.1 acre site is zoned C2. The Planning Commission held that public hearing in November 2019 and recommended approval in December 2019. As I mentioned, the ordinance rezoning the small section was passed, and the CUP became effective February 3rd, 2020. Subsequently, there was no site plan filed by Panera, and there wasn't any follow through by that petitioner, but I'll show that site plan. You can see the circulation is very similar to the proposed car wash. There is more parking, but generally it's a similar sort of circulation of the site. That's the Planning Department's presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Any questions from the committee? Councilman Trekus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Addressing your statement regarding the rezoning in, I believe you said December of 19, is that right?
Yes.
That was pre-pandemic, agreed?
Right, it was late 2019.
That was before we
became effective early 2020.
Right. And so that rezoning was done at the request of a restaurant, which was already a permitted use in that location. Am I correct in that?
No, a sit-down restaurant is a permitted use, but a restaurant with a drive-through is also a conditional use. So Panera was seeking a change in zoning for this sort of interior parcel 10028. That was the rezoning, but then Panera requested a conditional use permit on the whole site for a restaurant.
Right, I understand that, but my point is the use, that is a restaurant, albeit with a drive-through this time, was consistent with what was already there. Is that right?
The commission felt that a restaurant with a drive-through was consistent with the surrounding development pattern.
And since that time, have any other parties expressed any interest in putting in a restaurant with a drive-through at this location with your department. And if you don't know, perhaps Ms. Choate, who's on the call, I believe, if she knows, can answer that question.
Not that I know of. I'm Gail.
No, they have not. Not to the planning department.
Okay. But in any case, do you, either of you know if Panera's failure to submit a site plan was in any way connected with the realities of the pandemic?
It's definitely possible. I mean, Panera is located across Graveway Road currently, so I mean, I think that'd be a reasonable assumption.
And they were going to, do you know whether or not they were going to maintain both locations or move the one operation to this one?
This was going to be a replacement. Panera in general is trying to move towards restaurants with drive-thrus.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Anyone else with a question for the department? All right, moving on to the next presentation from the petitioners.
Hello, this is Steve Randall with Cochran Engineering. Can everyone hear me? Miss Days, can everyone hear me?
Yes, can everyone hear you?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Steve Randall with Cochran Engineering. I'm talking to you on behalf of our client, Club Car Wash LLC. And I kind of want to go over a few things. Is there any way that I can get my presentation up or share my screen for that matter?
Steve, you are the presenter, so you should be able to share your screen now.
Perfect. All right. Perfect. I'm just going to start this guy out. All right. As I said, my name is Steve Randall with Cochran Engineering, talking to you on behalf of Club Car Wash, who is the owner-operator of Club Car Wash in right here in Missouri. They're actually from Columbia and have multiple locations in Missouri and Illinois. Just to go through, I won't rehash what Melissa said. She did a great presentation, so I won't waste everyone's time on some of that. Again, some of the uses nearby, just to stay congruent. To the east, we have a small retail strip center and one of Missouri American's facilities for water. To the west, we have a hardware store. To the south, we have Lutheran High School, and to the north is Graveway Road. And the existing site, as Melissa stated, has an office to the rear, has a restaurant more towards the north, and is mostly paved. Not entirely, but almost entirely. And it has the access to the north and ingoing and outgoing, and also the exiting near what would have been an old drive-through for the restaurant. And what I will point out that wasn't discussed was the stormwater flow based on what's sitting there right now. Currently, that flow comes untreated and undetained to the south and actually flows directly off into Lutheran High's property. And so that's something that we're going to look at, and I'll talk about in just a moment as we move forward. This was the site plan as originally submitted, and we received the comments that Melissa had talked about, most notably the access points to the north. We were trying to utilize the existing, barring the exit near where the drive-through used to be. And then also to give a little more treatment to that water and to meet MSD standards for that matter, there's a hydrodynamic separator shown towards the south of the property. And hopefully that'll relieve some of the trash and different things that Lutheran High had brought up in the last planning meeting. The site plan that is on the screen right now shows differences in a few different ways, and those are based on planning comments and MoDOT comments mostly. To point out a few, the access to Graveway Road has changed, and most notably the eastern entrance. We stopped using and plan to take out the two existing access points and shorten up and kind of control that access in and out through the left side to the west. And then also control the access to Gravois Road coming directly out of the car wash to the right, and kind of use those two, what I'll say, existing access points, but kind of take out the middle one. So we're actually reducing access in a sense to try to control that a little better. Because I know Gravois Road, there's a lot of traffic issues in certain areas, and that was brought up before, and we want to address that as much as possible. Also, one of the opposition speakers before was Dr. Rung, I believe it's Rung, possibly Runge, from Lutheran High. And I reached out to him after he had opposed it to kind of ask him why and to see if there was anything we could do based on his comments. And what he expressed to me was a large amount of flow was coming off of the existing parking lot, and because it was untreated and unfettered through any kind of metering, it brought with it a lot of trash and debris that he would end up having to clean up, and his maintenance folks were not too happy about that. And so we passed back and forth a few emails, and I don't know if he's here to speak or not, but hopefully we can address some of those issues through not only the hydrodynamic separator that I talked about before, but also through talking with him. There's a stilling basin at the bottom of the wall where that hydrodynamic separator would release, and that would reduce that amount of flow coming off all at once. So instead of just treating it, it actually meters it out in a way. And just to discuss some of the traffic, because I know that was a large part of the discussion during the last planning meeting, and probably, I assume, will come up here. What we did is had a trip generation estimate put together for a proposed Panera Cafe using local data. It was actually Westport. And then a trip generation estimate for a proposed club car wash. And as you can see, during your weekday AM peak hours, we're actually quite a bit lower than what the Panera was. And in your weekday midday hours, we're actually quite a bit lower, whereas your PM peak hours were roughly the same. And so, all things put together and made equal, the car wash would actually create much, much less traffic generation to what was proposed previously. Another aspect of comments that we took care of were landscaping issues. One being the fencing, and we have no problem whatsoever putting more of a decorative aluminum fence to look a little more like the wrought iron or that, to spruce the site up. Because my client in particular, and I can speak from experience by going to his sites, they're very, very good looking. He cares about the visual aspect and the attractiveness very much. And so it's not something that you would have to push him very hard to take care of. One of the other aspects are additional trees and shrubs that were requested, and those, absolutely, we show those. That was a good call. So it kind of brings out a little more attractiveness for the surrounding environment, because you have a few strip malls, you have a hardware store, they're kind of hard surface. They're kind of day-to-day as you're driving down a major metropolitan drive. It's everything you see is kind of that big box in a sense. Not to mention the Missouri American Water Facility that's not necessarily attractive, but not necessarily unattractive. This would give a little bit of color, and I will also point out that any open area that doesn't have mulch in it for the trees or shrubs is sodded. It's not seeded, it's actually sodded. And so it's a very attractive site if you've ever seen them around. And so that kind of concludes what I have, unless someone has questions.
I'm sorry, Chairwoman, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Okay. Councilman Trekus. And there's an echo.
Yeah, Mr. Randall, you're not suggesting, are you, that some other proposed use wouldn't be able to address the water runoff problem that you've talked about, are you?
Absolutely not.
Right. And then with respect to community outreach, did you make any efforts, sir, to hold a town hall or an open house and invite the community or send a direct mail piece in any way, shape, or form to the surrounding residents?
To those particular points, not that I'm aware of. But based on opposition speakers, I did reach out to Lutheran High to attempt to address those issues that they brought up.
Okay, but nothing unique to your effort. That was all in connection with a required public hearing held by the zoning commission, correct?
They did speak in opposition at the planning meeting, but
I understand that, sir. But my question is, did you or your client do anything beyond that in the way of a town hall, open house, or direct mail to members in the community most directly impacted by your proposed use?
No, sir.
Okay. And then you talked about your traffic estimates. Now, the increased traffic is for a restaurant, correct? Not a car wash.
Yes, sir.
And then I think that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Fitch?
Thank you, ma'am. I didn't see any data, sir, on weekend traffic. You just had weekday. Is there a reason why you did not include weekend?
I did not, no. The aspects of the traffic generation memo and the stipulations thereof, I have no control over. That was done by CBB. I understand they did it per ITE, the Institute of Traffic Education. So I believe it was done correctly, but no, I do not have any data on the weekends.
Would you agree that weekends are much busier to car wash?
I can assume that, but I can't speak to it, to be honest.
I could just speak of me personally using them. By the way, do you have a site on Manchester Road in the Baldwin area?
Yes, I do.
And is there another one in the valley, Chesterfield Valley?
Yeah, actually, there's quite a few in Missouri and Illinois, especially, and if I may get a little more specific, in Lake St. Louis, Troy, Spanish Lake, Washington, Florissant, Manchester, Arnold, Eureka, O'Fallon, Festus, Fenton, just to name a few, not to mention the owner and operator is from Columbia, Missouri, and he has 4 stores there alone. So.
And refresh my memory, are the vacuums, are these the car wash for the vacuums are free?
Yes.
And since they're free, are they shut off what's the business hours that you'd be able to operate?
The business hours are Monday through Saturday from 7 to 8 and Sunday 7 to 7.
And the vacuums are shut off when the business closes?
I believe so, but I do not know that for a fact.
And the reason I asked that is I had a complaint from one of my neighborhoods where anybody could pull up any time of the day and use the vacuum, and they did at 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning when people were trying to sleep. Will that be an issue, or could that be an issue at this location? Because it is residential right across the street to the northwest, right?
Well, that is very interesting, and I will bring that up to the owner, because those are the kinds of things that he loves feedback in that sense. He does not want negative connotations to his properties at all. So I will bring that up.
Across the street to the northwest, I don't know, help me out with this, Ernie. I think that's residential, right?
Councilman Trekus?
Yes, I believe that's correct, Madam Chair. I'm sorry.
Okay. Maybe this is a planning question. Was there any kind of decibel test for the sound that the vacuums will make? Because that's going to be the main issue as far as noise going on here with that residential area. Is there anything like that required, or was it done?
Not in the zoning ordinance. There is a sound ordinance in the county's code. I believe that is enforced by either Public Works or Health. That's not in planning's purview.
A pretest was not conducted though, sir. Tim, a pretest was not conducted in advance.
Let me just suggest, if you're not speaking, could you mute your selves, please? Getting a lot of feedback. Thank you.
Gail, would you mind trying that again? I could not understand what you said.
There was not a pretest required or done for this application. But the noise code is enforced for all properties in St. Louis County and its public health department in conjunction.
And I'm wondering, usually when we get noise complaints, it's after the fact. The facility's already been built and now we're getting noise complaints. Is there any reason why we wouldn't do that ahead of time? Try to estimate what that sound, that noise, like a vacuum, could create for the residential area nearby. Is there any way to simulate that or test that?
I'm not sure. I think we alert all types of businesses that have that kind of potential about the noise rules and regulations in advance so that they are well aware of what standard they will be held to.
Gail, I would add that I can think of one case for the Afton the food truck garden. They actually were required through the planned commercial district to do a sound plan because they had, like speakers for music. So it's not something the zoning ordinance requires outright, but it is something that an engineer could produce if it was required.
That was part of, after the zoning was in place, that was part of the site plan requirements. So that could be a condition that could be added. This is a conditional use permit application with recommended conditions. That specific condition certainly could be something that could be added by this committee.
Okay.
And this is Kurt Daniels with Cochran also. The vacuums are turned off after operating hours after the store closes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Anyone else on the committee? Councilman Trekus? Councilman Trekus, you're on mute.
Yes, ma'am, I apologize.
That's all right.
Mr. Randall, did I hear you correctly? You say you have one of these located in Arnold, Missouri. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's true.
And is that on 6167?
I believe it is.
And do I have it, if I have it correct, is this the type of car wash where all of your vacuums and other types of hoses are on poles, and that there are numerous, they go down all along the building on the outside, is that right? So you have several looped type of arrangements for cars to come in and vacuum, is that correct?
If I'm understanding you correctly, yes. In this particular case, to the east side of the property will be the building, and to the west and south side will be kind of the queuing lanes with the kiosk, and in the center of those will be the vacuum bay areas, and they're kind of larger 15 by 20 foot spaces, so you can get a little spaced out, and each one does have its own pole with vacuum.
Right, and that, how many of these bays do you have planned in this site?
12.
12, so that would be 12 poles and at least 12 of these hoses, or however you want to refer to them, from these poles, correct?
Yes, sir.
And these poles are, if my estimate's correct, at least 10 feet, if not 12 to 15 feet high. Is that correct?
I believe these are about 8 to 10. And I will point out that each one does have its own hose. However, it has one actual vacuum unit at the end of the row. And it'll be a similar style and type, if not the exact same equipment as what was put into these other sites that are existing.
Right. And you don't happen to have a picture of one of your sites so that the committee could see exactly what it looks like, do you?
Kind of. If I could bring my screen up, I do have their website pulled up with, and it does have quite a few of their styles on there. Now, granted, they do have one particular style they're moving to, and I can show you that.
That'd be fine. I want the committee to have a full picture of exactly what one of your sites looks like.
Absolutely. And so in Missouri, and more particularly, the proposed site will look more like this and have this sort of color scheme and layout.
And the hoses and poles I'm talking about are there to the right and the left of this particular photograph. Is that right?
That one is, yes. And that's a prototypical architectural rendering. That's not necessarily the photo of the Eureka site.
I understand that. And the one that I'm familiar with in Arnold, these bays, vacuum bays that you call it, are somewhat removed from the building, almost a good 10 to 15 feet from the building. Would that be the case here?
They are removed from the building, yes, sir.
That's what I thought. So you would have essentially an island of these vacuum poles, 12 of them, and their hoses in addition to the building, right?
Roughly, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, we'll move on to public comments and interested parties. And I believe Pamela was first on my list. Are you still there, Pamela?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I want to say this has been very interesting for me to listen to, so I appreciate the time for me to make my comment. My name is Pam Knox, and I've lived in Afton for over 40 years. My reason for addressing the Public Improvements Committee today is my concern about the property at 1024 Gravois Road. Presently, the property is being occupied by the Breakfast Burgers and More restaurant. My family and friends frequently eat there, and I know many other people also do. I understand this property was recently rezoned for a restaurant with a drive-through. This rezoning should attract other eateries that our community needs. Presently, this area is being petitioned to be rezoned for a car wash. Currently, there are 4 car washes within a radius of 3 miles. In addition, the possible traffic would add extra congestion to Gravois, like the one just less than about a mile away down Gravois. As a resident for many years in Afton, I feel that we need to stop this rezoning request. There are many reasons to keep this property zoned as is. We need more restaurants in this area. Just the foot traffic from Lutheran South and Corey Zoo, the 200 plus new homes being built in Afton, and the current population of approximately 20,248 of Afton should tell all of us that we need more eateries in our area, not car washes. The Public Improvement Committee needs to help Afton add improvements that benefit the community, not add businesses we already have enough of in the area. For the benefit of the Afton community, please do not approve the rezoning request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I believe Nancy was here for the Gravois project. Nancy, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I want to reiterate what Pamela just said, that it's already zoned for the restaurant use, which would make it easier to go through. And the traffic, I believe, is an issue also. We now have 9 Mile Garden, which has been very popular, which goes to show that the new residents of Afton and the people in the surrounding areas are looking for something like that. We're going to have Super Smokers in June, which is going to be up in the same plaza. So as a marketing standpoint, it's always better to have more of something to give competition. People will go to an area where there's 3 or more restaurants or whatever, because that gives them a choice in what they can do with their money. And as stated, we are getting a lot of new people in the area, younger people, people with children. And I think it would be a better revenue generator to have a restaurant than to have a car wash. And thank you for your time.
And thank you. I'm sorry, and I don't know your name. Would you say your name and again?
Hi, I'm Yvonne Merlotti. I am the project manager for Seneca Commercial Real Estate. We just did the development of Afton Plaza and 9 Mile Garden that Nancy was talking about. After a huge investment into the community, obviously we're a little concerned about Afton's long-term success overall. We spent a lot of time in the community when developing that plaza to make sure that the businesses we were bringing in were something the community truly wanted. And I can tell you in doing that what I heard time and time again was they wanted places to eat and they always wanted drive-thrus. Now I have fit every drive-through that planning is going to allow me to fit into my plaza, so we're out there. But this site, looking at it, is probably one of the few sites up and down Gravois where you could actually fit a drive-through. And I know that's what it was originally looked at and rezoned for. And I'd hate to see that go to waste. There is a car wash just almost catty corner on that intersection. And I think from a community standpoint, a drive-through has more to offer. Also just business-wise, you've got much more sales tax revenue, I believe. And if you want to see how desirable that would be in that area, just look at the lines at Starbucks or Popeyes or Jimmy John's or even Smoothie King down in Afton Plaza. It just seems, the car wash was great and the design was awesome. I am not going to slam the car wash at all. I simply think to overturn it for the next person that comes up when the market's coming back and drive-thrus are a non-negotiable for restaurants nowadays in this post-COVID world, to just take it off the market and not let it back up. I really believe that if we got this property back out there, you could put a number of restaurants in there with a drive-through in a heartbeat, and I think that it would be probably more meaningful and desired by the residents of Afton. And that's really all.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone?
I have something to say.
Okay. And I don't have Casilda.
Yes. I am here to voice my concern over the rezoning of the 10,024 Gravois for a few reasons. The Afton Concord area already has numerous car washes, and here are just a few. Tidal Wave is a brand new site, state-of-the-art luxury car wash at South Lindbergh near the original Tesson Ferry Library. Zips Car Wash on Gravois, Waterways on Watson, and General Grant at another one on Watson. And I was going to one on Tesson Ferry, which was a Zips, and it had been a Rain car wash, and Zips purchased it and remodeled it. And when I went back to use my tickets that I had bought from Rain Tunnel, they weren't honoring them. So they're selling these car washes, and then you're out what you bought for the previous location. And there seemed to be a lot of competition at these car washes. They're all upgrading, remodeling, selling, and I think we have enough of it. These car washes are just a minute away from the club car wash proposed. And this does not mention the numerous car washes that gas stations in the area provide. There is also concern that it's a dangerous proposition. Gravois Road is very busy. It's old highway and with a high speed area. This stretch of Gravois is 2 lanes headed east and 2 lanes headed west, and there is no turn lane. Car washes are known to have long lines at times as people wait their turn. It's not uncommon for car washes to have backups on busy days. Gravois cannot absorb a business pattern as such. I think next door to the car wash is a hardware store, and then next to that is a shopping center, and it probably would block those entrance ways. Car washes seem to fall in the same category as storage facilities as far as development. Minimal cost to build and minimal overhead with high return. One of the challenges of living in unincorporated St. Louis County is the lack of thoughtful planning. It seems that anyone with an idea can apply, and the Planning Commission and Planning Department will recommend whatever the request is to be rezoned. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else wishing to speak?
Joan Smith-Lauer.
Okay, Joan.
I live in Concord Village and frequent the Afton area, and recently, as the other Afton residents have indicated, their 9 Mile Garden, their food truck, the Smoothie King up toward the end of that line of restaurants is just refreshing. And I'm envious of what we would like to have like that, something down here on Lindbergh, and not a oil change place. So I agree with the, I guess, rejecting this turnover. It's going to be, or it needs to be for the community, in my opinion, a drive-through restaurant. And I mean, who in the world does not like Panera? Their coffee in the morning, we have business coming in all the day, all the time at Panera. One other comment, both of the presenters today, I am very disappointed in the fact that they do not have some of the specific questions that we, the residents, have asked. They don't know who owns this, they don't know who that is, or how the runoff is on that, and I'm very disappointed in that. I agree with the denial of this upgrade to something else other than a drive-through restaurant. As the lady said, that's one of the few spaces that there is available for it, and that area is growing. It's wonderful to see, and I hope we can get the same thing when we get our restaurant down on Lindbergh and 21. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Public comment or interested parties? Anyone else? Any other questions or comments from committee members?
I'm sorry. If I could reply to a few of those things, if that's all
Who's
right.
speaking, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Steve Randall with Cochran.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to point out, it's been brought up a few times about a rezoning, and this is not necessarily a rezoning. It's actually just a conditional use, keeping the existing zoning. So I just wanted to point that out. And then also, I'm a foodie myself, and so I don't want to discourage restaurants at all from any place. However, looking at some of the traffic issues that Gravois does have, especially right there at Tesson Ferry, the use of, and just for instance, of Panera's would increase that traffic flow quite a bit in comparison to this car wash. And so I don't know why Panera didn't follow through with their previous approval. I can't speak to that. I don't work for them, and I don't know why. But there must have been a reason. Not only that, but also beautification. We talk about this a lot in many forums, and I think this covers it doubly in a sense. Not only does it beautify the actual site in a sense of taking away a lot of the existing pavement, putting in green space, new trees, things like that, and really what I consider putting in a beautiful site. But also, just by definition, what it does for the community is create a sense of beautification in the cars. That's the whole point. It takes something that, road salt or road grime, just all of our cars get, and actually beautifies it. That's the whole point of this site. And so I think to that point, it kind of helps on multiple fronts. And if there's any specific questions, I know it was brought up, we may not have all the answers, and I'm not going to say that I have every answer specifically, but if there are any specific questions that somebody has, I would love to look into that to see if I could answer it or if I could find that answer for you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Sorry. Any other questions or comments?
Comment. Joan Smith Lauer.
Yes, Joan. Okay. One last time.
One last time.
Okay.
I agree with Ernie. Both of these companies and these projects, why not have an open forum for the community? Why not ask us before so we don't have to get it approved one way and then try to get it approved the other way? Ask the community before you make all these plans. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And if anything else, those are lessons learned. Any other comments or questions from the committee members?
Yes, Councilwoman Days.
Councilwoman Clancy.
Yes, I have been also receiving some comments from folks regarding this project because it does abut my district, District 5. Councilman Trekus and I share parts of Afton. And, you know, again, it's your point, Madam Chair, lesson learned about community engagement and what we heard from Ms. Smith Lauer. I do believe as part of their process, the Planning Commission and our Department of Planning does send out postcards and lets folks know about public hearings anytime there's a question of rezoning. But that's only a small part of their process. They're evaluating for so many other things. But I can tell you, in the time that I have been on the council, this is a council that, and this is a message for the developers, we very much care about community engagement. And so I'm disappointed when folks come to us and say they didn't do much to involve the community. And if you need support on that, particularly in Afton, Yvonne Merlotti is your person. I was blown away by all the community engagement they did on Afton Plaza. And she's right. We've heard from folks again and again, they want more food options, more amenities like that. So I'm not inclined to support this recommendation for this rezoning. Of course, the community engagement is only one data point of many, but it is a very significant one, and I take that very seriously when evaluating these kinds of requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from the committee members? Councilman Trekus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of comments and observations. One, and I forget which commentator said this, but they called it, in referring to 9 Mile Garden, refreshing. And what I want to convey to the committee here, and I think Councilwoman Clancy touched on it, this piece of Afton is, if not on the cusp, already well into what I'm going to call a renaissance along this corridor. 9 Mile Garden is the great example, as I said it when it opened, of what a corporate citizen should look like and act like. Councilwoman Clancy touched on it. Their community engagement was impeccable. And so people understood what was proposed, what was going in. And my concern here is that this renaissance along this corridor of Gravelway continue. This car wash, with all due respect to its proponents, does not play well into this renaissance. Beauty is in the eye of a beholder. And with all due respect, the reason I asked the questions concerning the car wash in Arnold is if someone went out of their way to construct an eyesore, that would be it. It is not in any way, shape, or form beautiful. The photographs or renderings we saw aren't even close to the chaos that that site looks like. So the idea that this would somehow beautify that corner, with all due respect, I completely disagree with. So for my purposes, I will not support this proposal. I believe that the reason Panera didn't go forward was pandemic related. I think it will take no time at all for some other operation to look at this from a restaurant drive-through perspective. So that's where I stand on it, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Is there a motion for a recommendation?
Madam Chair, I move that, thank you. I move that the committee recommend to the council that it reverse the decision of the Planning Commission concerning approval of this proposed use.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second, Fitch.
Right. All in favor of reversing the decision of the Planning Committee, say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Motion carries, and that is the recommendation that we will send to the full committee. Any further business to come before this committee at this time? Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, motion carries. See you at 6 o'clock, and thank you all for coming and sharing your concerns with us. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.